GBS.
A very good afternoon. It is exactly 1 p.m. here in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, and you are just in time for The Ambassador, where we debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics. To our first story that is creating headlines throughout the country. Tensions grip the streets of Nairobi today as Kenyans marked 1 year since the deadly June 25th protest that shook the nation. What began as a commemoration quickly turned into fresh confrontations, pitting demonstrators against police and counter-protesters. As citizens renewed their call for justice, police accountability, and government reforms, the anniversary comes in the wake of another controversial death in police custody, reigniting painful memories and setting the stage for a volatile day in the capital.
We don't just follow orders for the sake.
We are just following the law.
Yes. We are fighting for you to
Nairobi is currently witnessing tense confrontations between protesters and the police as Kenyans mark the 1-year anniversary of the deadly anti-government protest that culminated in the storming of parliament and multiple fatalities due to police gunfire. Demonstrations are sparked by opposition to government policies and police brutality, including the death of Kenyan blogger Albert Ojwang in police custody earlier this month, which reignited public outrage. Ojwang's death has become a rallying point alongside grievances of over 60 deaths during last year's protest and ongoing concerns about police accountability. While many demonstrations remained peaceful, clashes occurred between protesters, police, and counter-protesters armed with sticks and rubber whips who claim to protect businesses in the CBD. These counter-protesters, sometimes described as goons, allegedly supported by local politicians and linked to police. Police have deployed a heavy security presence around key government buildings and the CBD, warning protesters against provoking law enforcement or attempting to breach secured areas. Let's head on to a live video that is currently being recorded in the CBD here in Nairobi. Well, interesting commotions happening in the CBD and across the country. While we hope that you at home are safe, and if you've gone to the protest, please be safe and return home. Now, the tensions flared outside the NATO summit this week as protesters gathered to accuse the alliance of complicity in Israel's military actions in Gaza. Demonstrators staged a symbolic protest near the summit venue, challenging NATO's silence on what they described as a genocide. The protest, held under tight security, highlighted growing public discontent with the alliance's perceived disregard for the international law and the humanitarian crisis in Palestine. Here are the details.
As NATO leaders convened for their annual summit, protests erupted nearby, with the demonstrators accusing the alliance of being complicit in Israel's ongoing war in Gaza Activists gathered at the location renamed Gaza Beach to draw attention to the humanitarian crisis despite heavy security and numerous roadblocks. The protest feared a symbolic 2-minute die-in where participants lay silently in the sand to honor the victims of the conflict.
We cannot have a meeting about the NATO and not address the elephant in the room, which is the genocide that takes place in Gaza for such a long time.
Protesters criticized NATO's silence on the war, arguing that discussions about defense and peace are undermined by the alliance's failure to acknowledge the widespread suffering in Gaza. Many believe the alliance support for member states involved in the conflict makes it complicit in the actions they describe as violations of international law. The summit's agenda on maintaining global security was viewed as a contradictory by those who see continued military aggression and civilian casualties in Gaza as being ignored.
General of NATO today praised Trump for the courageous step which he had taken to neglect international law. It was aggression, it was a war act, an act of war. So, in my view, NATO gradually is disregarding its own values.
Tensions escalated further following praise from NATO leadership for recent US military strikes in the Middle East, which protesters saw as a disregard for international norms. Demonstrators expressed growing concern that NATO is drifting away from its foundational principles by selectively addressing the global conflicts. The protest served as a pointed reminder that public accountability and consistent application of international law remain central demands for those opposing NATO's current stand.
Moving forward and still on the NATO, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has emphasized NATO's enduring and heightened importance during the second day of the Alliance's historic 2025 summit in the Netherlands amid global instability and renewed security threats. Starmer told reporters that NATO is probably as important and as strong today as it's ever been, underscoring the alliance's role in ensuring peace and security in a volatile world. He highlighted the necessity for unity among NATO members, especially in the face of recent global events and ongoing conflicts such as those in the Middle East and Ukraine. At the summit, Starmer announced the UK's commitment to increase defense and security spending to 5% of the GDP by 2035, aligning with the new NATO-wide target agreed by member states. This marks the highest levels of UK defense spending since the Cold War and is intended to bolster the country's resilience and competitiveness in what Starmer described as an era of radical uncertainty. The 2025 NATO summit in The Hague has brought together leaders from all 32 NATO countries, as well as key United European Union representatives and partners from Asia-Pacific nations.
Well, NATO is as relevant and as important today as it's ever been. We live in a very volatile world, and today is about the unity of NATO, showing that strength. We're bigger than we were before, we're stronger than we were before. There's a historic commitment in relation to spending. And for me, as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, it's important that we play an integral part, because the safety and security of our citizens in the UK is my first duty as Prime Minister. I take that extremely seriously.
The Ambassador will take a short break. We'll be right back with even more.
A student can transition from other curriculums, such as the Kenyan CBC curriculum, the Pearson Edexcel curriculum, and the IB curriculum, to the Cambridge curriculum.
Today is all about models. So girl Alison, you tuned into Art Club, the best archery in the whole of East Africa.
My name is Abigail Paula, but on my socials I go with Peaches Paula. Yeah. I did procurement and logistics.
How do you deal with those negative comments? I'm a rejection.
Yeah.
How do you advise with it?
But the heaviness of it, rejection is redirection.
Now you were crowned Miss Kenya UK.
Yeah.
Lakini before we get there, I want to know your journey towards that title.
Started with Miss Freshers.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I ended up being the first runners-up.
Hello kids! Did you know a year has 31,557,600 seconds? Why do you think so? Exactly! There are 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day, and 365 and 25 days in a year. We count the extra 0.25 because of leap years. When you multiply all these numbers together, you get a huge number of seconds. That's why a year feels long, but time still flies when you are having fun.
Everywhere, GBS. Welcome back to the bulletin now. A heartbreaking crisis is unfolding in northern Mozambique, where at least 120 children have been abducted by jihadist militants. Many are being forced to fight, labor, or enter into marriage. Women's Rights Watch warns the violence is escalating and being dangerously overlooked. Here is the full story.
In northern Mozambique, at least 120 children have been abducted by the jihadist group Al-Shabaab, according to Human Rights Watch. They are forced into hard labor, used as fighters, or forced into marriage, part of a brutal insurgency in Cabo Delgado that has raged since 2017. Despite military support from regional allies, Mozambique's forces have struggled to contain the violence. Entire villages have been attacked, and survivors say some kidnapped children are returning as armed militants. Due to the violence, over 600,000 people have been displaced. Human Rights Watch warns of a surge in recent kidnappings and calls it a neglected crisis. With political unrest and natural disasters already straining the country, Mozambique's stolen children risk being forgotten unless urgent action is taken. Elvin Muyodi, GBS News.
The World Economic Forum's 16th annual meeting of the New Champions, commonly known as Summer Davos, has begun in Tianjin, China, drawing over 1,500 delegates from more than 90 countries and regions. Under the banner, Entrepreneurship for a New Era, the gathering brings together leaders from government, business, academia, civil society, and international organizations to explore how entrepreneurs' solutions can drive economic transformation amid modest global growth.
When we talk about entrepreneurship, it's not just about technology, but also entrepreneurial policy making and trying to create resilient and innovative policy frameworks.
The new technologies can increase productivity. And productivity, what is that? That is producing more for less, and that is prosperity. That's the only way to increase people's welfare, to have more resources, to invest in education, in health, and people's livelihoods. So I don't think we should lose the optimism in such a situation either. But one also has to be realistic and not naive.
A deadly landslide struck northwest Colombia, resulting in at least 10 fatalities and injuring 15 others. The disaster occurred in the Antioquia province near the city of Medellin, specifically affecting the municipality of Bello. The landslide was triggered by heavy rains and the overflow of the La Negra stream, which led to flooding in a ravine and caused significant destruction in the El Pina neighborhood, burying over 10 homes under mud and debris. Local authorities, including Antioquia Governor Andres Julia and Bello Mayor Lorena Gonzalez, reported that rescue operations are still ongoing, with teams searching for missing persons and providing aid to survivors. Residents have been evacuated and are seeking shelter in the makeshift camps due to continued risk of further landslides. The full resources of the department have been mobilized to respond to the emergency, and local communities are appealing for solidarity and support, especially for basic needs like blankets and food. That's all we had here at The Ambassador. Thank you for joining us as we cover the latest development. We'll continue to bring you these updates and more as they develop. Remember, here in Ambassador, we debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics. I have been your Ambassador, Susan Nganga. Remember, wherever you are, be safe. Have a good afternoon.